Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Casual Wizards Company podcast. This is the first episode, so I feel like I need to explain everything that's going on. For starters, I'm Kylan, your host, and this is going to be a podcast about deck building. I mean, that's really what we want to get into. That's kind of the point of this channel is how do people go about building their decks? And, well, what does it say about them? Because I think it's an interesting story when you really want to get into it. So, with this podcast, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be trying to bring a guest on every episode, and they're going to pick a deck of theirs, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to get into how they went about building the deck. Maybe they started from a precon, maybe they built it from scratch. But every deck has a story, and we want to find out what that story is. So today we've got a pretty special guest, I'd say. I mean, our first one, so I got to start out strong. So I figured that I would bring in the guy that, well, kind of inspired me to start playing Magic, or at least he joined me for the ride. So, welcome, Alex, my former roommate.
Hey, happy to be here. How you doing, cutie?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, huh?
I'm doing all right, doing all right. It is a cold day out here,
Oh yeah.
out in California. No longer roommates,
No.
and happy to be here talking about magic again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're a few states away now. It's also been what, like 4 years? 4 years since we started playing.
Yeah, I think so. That's kind of crazy to think
Yeah.
about.
Right? Oh man. We started when the original Strixhaven came out. You remember that?
Yeah, I do. I remember both of us buying our first packs, and if I remember right, I started off a little bit stronger as far as getting money's worth, and then
Oh
were
yeah.
just on a streak from then on. I was like, whoa.
Dude, you
Then
kicked
the
my butt
magic
every.
arms race began.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no kidding. I remember, dude, the first time we played, like you kicked my butt so hard because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I tried to run a planeswalker as my commander, and it was just crazy. You and your Shadrick Silverquill, um,
Mm-hmm. When I
dude.
didn't understand what politics even was in the context of Commander. And then the
Mm-hmm.
tides turned as soon as like you got Oko.
Well, that was just
Then it was like crazy where I was like, wait, he can just turn people into food and turn people into deer. What is going on here? And that just immediately opened my eyes to like, wow, Magic has a lot of broken stuff, doesn't it?
Oh, it
And
does.
that got me excited. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to know more.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I still remember, like I still have that Oko Thief of Crowns card that I opened. I think it was like the second Planeswalker that I ever got from a pack, and
Hmm.
I remember looking at it, and it was like I'm in the back of the room, man. Like, how am I going to beat him? I need to beat Alex. I haven't gotten a win ever. Wait, what is? Oh, my secret weapon! I have found it! Ah! And yeah, it just kind of went from there. I think he was the.
Absolutely. And I
I,
had no answers for that.
oh, it's so great.
Yeah. Mhm.
Anyway, enough about. Well, now that everyone's kind of gotten a little bit of our backstory about how we got started, and I think it's also fitting that the new Strixhaven, as of recording this, just came out a week ago, officially released a week ago. We got Secrets of Strixhaven, and now I have a Shadrick Silverquill. So ha.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I haven't looked fully through the new set, but I am. This is like an interesting anniversary of like we
Yeah,
started with Strixhaven, and here we are, right back
now we're
in it
back.
again.
Dude, it is a powerful set, especially with things like Paradigm, and I think people are getting a little bit um I think people overhyped the prepared mechanic a lot because they saw a lot of like, oh, this thing comes in and it's got ancestral recall on it. But the reason that they've got like broken what used to be broken instants and sorceries on them. But the
Mhm.
reason those cards were broken is because they were really cheap mana costs. But now you have to pay extra mana for the creature and then the mana for the instant or sorcery. So like it balances out.
Yeah, in
But
the end, for
in the
sure.
end it does. But anyway, we are not here to talk about the new set. That's just a fun coincidence. We're here to talk about the deck that you picked out. So, what did you bring today?
I brought what can only be summed up as a names matter deck, which I think is pretty uncommon in Commander because it is a singleton format of you only ever have cards that are uniquely named, and aside from like basic lands. There are some decks that have like you can have as many of this card in your deck as you want. Like we're seeing that become a bit more popular these days. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think white got like a rabbit that you can have as many of in your deck as you want. Black has like the rat pack, you know. And then there's like a classic artifact that has like the ripple effect on it, where there's just a lot of crazy stuff if you have cards that you can just have any number of in an EDH deck. So the goal of this deck was to counter that very niche um, type of deck, I guess, or inclusion in a deck. And then I took it a step further. I was like, how do we apply this to just every deck out there that isn't using one of these cards? And I came across an artifact called Spy Kit. That is the centerpiece that makes just this whole thing work to construct a names matter deck.
Okay, so looking into this, what is Spy Kit? What does it do?
Spy Kit is an artifact, a two cost, just generic. You drop it on the battlefield. If I recall, it's like an equip cost of two. So you're just paying four to just slap it on anybody. And when it's on a creature, that creature gets plus one, and has all names of non legendary creature cards in addition to its own name. So it
Interesting.
yeah, it's an interesting little card. Um, you can do a lot with it.
Okay. I mean, it sounds pretty versatile if it has all card names. But so
Mhm.
you said this is to counter the decks that have any number of whatever cards in it. Have multiple
Yes.
copies of
Mhm.
different cards in it. I'm assuming non-lands. Um, so how what really inspired you to play this? Like, how did like were you coming up against a lot of like were you playing against a lot of decks that had multiple copies of stuff in it, or was this just some kind of weird?
Honestly, um,
Because from what I know of
honestly, it
you,
was it was the trend of like the number of cards becoming more common. Like I think uh blue green got like an ooze that you can have any number of in your deck. White got the rabbits.
hmm
Red has I think an instant that you can have any number of in your deck that's dragon related.
yeah, I was just looking at that one for a burn deck that I had because it's actually even without having
Yeah.
dragons in a deck, it's a decent like burn spell, like Dragon's Approach.
Dragon's Approach, that's the one. Yeah, and then the artifact I was referring to before with the ripple effect is called Thrumming Stone. Um, Dragon's approach with Thrumming Stone is ridiculous. Of like spells you cast have ripple four, meaning like when you cast it, you reveal the top four cards of your library. Any spell with the same name as the one you cast, you get to just cast it for free. And so Dragon's approach with Thrumming Stone, you could just cast every single one in your deck reasonably in just a single turn, which is nonsense. So it was the fact that these cards, where you can have just any number of them in your deck, they feel strong. They feel more common than they ever have before, thanks to like the sets that were coming out when I first thought of making this deck. And honestly, I'm just really attracted to accomplishing really strange, specific goals.
Yeah.
So the deck, honestly, it's like second incarnation in my head. I had the idea that thing is, I'm a huge JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan,
Mm-hmm.
and when I found the commander that I'm using for this deck, I was thinking of Johnny and Gyro from Steel Ball Run,
Gotcha.
especially because of the colors and it being like
Mm.
a duo commander. I was like, oh, this is pretty perfect. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to like arrange the mana costs to conform to the golden ratio or the Fibonacci sequence. So I would
Okay.
only have like zero cost, one cost, two, three, so on and so forth. But that got way too difficult. That got way too difficult. There is a version of this deck that accomplishes that, but I'm like, no, we have to make it somewhat functional. I can't go full thematic. That's insane. So that's the version I'll be talking about today. Is the one that's decent, functional, not too expensive.
All right.
Mhm.
So, who is the commander here? Tell me a bit about that. Who did you pick to go with this strategy? Because I'm so you base this deck around Spy Kit, not necessarily the commander, right?
Yes, I wanted to have a commander that did two things. Provided value and allowed me to rifle through my deck faster. With the simple, like, idea of the guy who draws more cards is the guy who's probably going to win. So the commander I had chosen is the card Zimone and Dinah. It is a CMC of 3. It is blue, green, black. And the commander just says whenever you draw your second card each turn, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So that's a nice little bit of value. And it has an activated ability where if you tap it and sacrifice another creature, you draw a card, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you control 8 or more lands, repeat this process once.
Okay.
So that is a good amount of card draw and ramp, just all in one
Yeah.
card. There's a lot of value in that. And with the, draw your second card each turn, I think there's a lot of opportunities on other people's turns to take advantage of that trigger. So it was a very versatile commander that I saw purely as a value engine rather than the centerpiece for this deck.
Okay. Yeah. Something just to keep the deck moving so you can get to your game plan, right? That's kind of what you're talking about by
Correct.
value engine.
And absolutely. There's like no keywords on Zimone and Dinah either.
Hmm.
It's just a simple 3/4 with the trigger and the activated ability.
Hmm. So one thing I want to point out right now is if this is not the first video going on the channel, then right now what we'll have, but the other videos that'll be on there will be building videos that I've done for my own decks. And I think you and I go about building a deck in different ways. You pick a mechanic, or you tend to pick a mechanic or a specific card within the deck, and then you pick the commander to kind of go along with it and work with it and help everything move smoothly. It kind of
Mm.
feels to me anyway, whenever I've played against you, that your commander is there to just like lubricate the deck in a way, like oiling an engine or something like that. I'm not a mechanic, but
Yeah. Mhm.
versus for me, at this point, what I think people will notice in the videos is that I pick the commander first, and I tend to just build around the commander, which I think is the easier of the two because it doesn't require so much of knowing the game itself and it lets you learn. But dude, you do so much research into this stuff. It blows my
Oh,
mind.
absolutely. I I really enjoy finding just the most bizarre card, and I'm like, how would I actually use this? And then those ideas accumulate in my brain, and they get a little bit meat or a little bit more meat over time. and then I find the right pilot is how I like to think of the commander, of which commander lets me play this card the most without being just a tutor. Typically, I avoid tutors for the sake of like conforming to a more casual power level.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what bracket would you say that you tend to build decks into?
Uh, it's honestly hard to say because I typically have terrible luck and an interesting obsession with breaking cards or mechanics. So I spike rapidly between I would say bracket 2 and likely bracket 4.
Okay.
Bracket 4 is when my idea works and that's typically when I go for something that is already good. So if you just give me like a great commander, I there's no way I can make a bad deck out of that, and I will likely make a deck that wins by turn 4 or 5. Um,
Okay.
like I made a Magecraft deck once that kind of went into that, and I don't like games that go that fast, to be honest. So I personally prefer bracket 3. I think is sort of perfect. Where like I'm pretty sure bracket 3 is like the fastest a game will typically go or end is after turn 6. I think is bracket 3. I want to
I
say, but
I don't remember. I don't know that off the top of my head. I just know that like bracket 3 is like optimized, and then like bracket 4 is like not quite CEDH level. Um
I believe 4 is optimized, and then 5
uh
is CEDH, and then
yeah.
3 is like upgraded, I believe. So it's like
Okay.
just
Yeah, that makes
upgraded from a
sense.
precon is like the rough power level.
Mhm.
And then 2 is precon level. 1 is just super thematic of like it might not be fully functional and has a lot of like random cards, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So what bracket would you say this deck is then? This I think you called it golden ratio.
It is called golden ratio with that idea of conforming to the golden ratio and just JoJo's. So very nerdy. Uh but I would say this deck falls into hmm. Quick question, like legitimate, because I'm like
Yeah.
I'm bouncing between two answers. Is
Mhm.
when determining bracket, does it balance at a four-player game or a two-player game of Commander? Because I think the answer is very different depending on whether it's a full table or not.
So from what I gather from the bracket system, they tried to put some like hard definitions in them. Like bracket 3 has like two, maybe one or two tutors in it and a game changer, while that kind of stuff. So it doesn't necessarily matter game to game anymore. Um,
Hmm.
so and I believe even if it were, it would probably be balanced for a four-player game because that's what Commander typically is. It's
Oh,
not really
sure.
a
Yeah.
two-person format.
Yeah, if you're doing like a dual commander kind of format, then it can be two player, but
Yeah.
that makes sense. In that case, I can confidently say that this is a bracket 2 deck.
Okay. Cool. You know what I just realized? So I'm
What's that?
looking at these cards and I'm looking at the art for your commander. I don't know what
Hmm.
if this is the art that you saw for it, but I see a spiral going into the background, which
Yes.
is that's
Is too
awesome.
perfect, right?
That is perfect
Yeah.
for the whole your whole Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah.
So, how do you find
I'm
this
telling you,
stuff?
oh man, I'm telling you, it really does accumulate in my brain and I reference it later all the time. So like when I make a deck, I will remember a card I saw 2 years ago.
That is great. Um, so now that we've talked a bit about like how you picked the commander and kind of the real star of the show here, why don't you run me through what a game with this deck looks like? Like what is the actual like goal? What cards are you looking for as you're playing? Because It's appears to be some kind of combo deck from everything that you're saying.
Yeah, no, for
Why don't
sure.
you run me through what that
Um,
would look like?
so a typical game with this deck um, would look kind of linear at first. I would hope for, just 2 to 3 land cards in here. I have 39 lands in the deck total, and it would look a little bit slow, to be honest. Um, but don't worry, it speeds up as pretty much as soon as Zamon and Dinah come out. It'll go by pretty fast.
Okay.
I have, I believe, I know I said I wasn't a big fan of tutors before, but this deck
Hmm.
kind of needed it. So I have 6 cards, I believe, that are able to search for my key card, which is Spy Kit. Um, and I will be able to search for Spy Kit on turn 3, is what it looks like, as all my tutors are going to cost about 3 mana. It uses the transmute mechanic. So, what transmute does is, much like the keyword might suggest, is that typically what it looks like is that let's look at this card, Muddle the Mixture. It costs 2 blue and it's just a counterspell, right? But it has
Hmm.
transmute at the bottom. Transmute is the cost of the card, so it's 2 blue and then 1 generic mana. And what it says is that you can when you use the ability, discard this card. Search your library for a card with the same mana value as this card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Transmute
Okay.
only as a sorcery. So
So
you never actually play the card. It is
mhm.
a ability that you activate from your hand. So
Okay.
transmute can't be countered by other people unless it specifically says counter activated ability.
Interesting. Okay. So it's kind of like um channel, but for a specific card at sorcery speed.
Hmm. Yeah,
Unless channel
yeah,
isn't
pretty
what
much.
I think it is. Okay.
You know what? You got me there too. I'm. It's been a little bit, so I'm
Hmm.
like, what is channel again?
I don't know. I
But
think channel is
yeah,
usually like pay to discard the card, draw a card.
that is cycle. I know
Oh,
that because I
okay.
have cycle cards in this deck.
Dude, there are so many mechanics. Like, it's this game has
There
gone
are.
on for so long. There's so many that like I remember seeing a video that's like everything is just kicker.
Yep.
So
There's way too much to fully remember, which is kind of wonderful in a way because everything's printed on the card, which I
yeah,
appreciate.
yeah. Unless you get like a Japanese
um,
card, you don't know what it says, or a French one in a pack of
true.
bulk that you buy, and you're like, what the heck is this?
Or a full art that has no text on it whatsoever.
Yeah. Anyway. So
Anyway,
you turn
continuing with what
three.
I was saying,
Yeah.
yeah,
Turn three.
is
You
that
search for spy kit.
yes, turn 3, I am doing one of two things. I am either playing Zamon and Dinah, or I am searching for Spy Kit. Um, Now it's a little bit hazy what happens on turn 3 because of the way the game splits for me at that point.
Hmm.
But ideally, I would have some sort of creature to sacrifice if I played Zamon and Dinah. That way I can get my card draw and my ramp going to
Hmm.
get to Spike It. And then if I manage to get to Spike It first, well, now we're getting a little bit cheesy because
Okay.
that is the key card in this deck. Everything revolves around it. And it'll get strange really quickly. It
Uh,
will be easier if I say what the goal of Spy Kit actually is.
please do.
Th-
You had me wondering
Yes,
this whole
so
time.
absolutely. I don't have a lot of legendary creatures in this deck. There are only 5, I think, and that's mainly because of the Avatar set. So Spy Kit, when it's on my side of the battlefield, does what I think a lot of people do with it, is that you're taking advantage of green and blue spells that specifically allow you to cheat out creatures either from your hand or library immediately onto the battlefield. You can see that effect in some of the cards that I can mention.
Hmm.
Mask of the Mimic is an instant. It's just 1 blue. Sacrifice a creature. Search your library for any copy of target creature card and put it into play. Shuffle your library afterwards.
Okay.
So I can pay 1 blue, sacrifice the creature that Spy Kit is equipped to, and then put out any non-legendary creature I want to onto the battlefield, which honestly
Okay.
will likely be Talarian Kraken, which is 4 generic, 2 blue. It's a 4/6 creature that says whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1 mana. When you do, you may tap or untap target creature. That is a nice little combo with Zamon and Dinah, without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
So cheating out creatures for 1 blue versus paying, 6 mana later in the game is very broken in its own way. But there are other effects that will say something like, um, play like you cheat out a card from your hand, and most of
Hmm.
these are sorceries, so it'll be done on my turn.
Okay.
Um, so that is the me things, right? That's filling out the engine. So what else do I actually do with Spike It? This is the actual goal of the deck where it gets nefarious, where I was drawn to it as, as me, right?
Yeah,
Of
of
like
course.
I like doing
What's
really weird things. I
uh-huh.
like being unconventional.
What's the weird broken thing here? Because so far you've just said, okay, you're just cheating big things in.
Mhm. the it would be the other combo pieces of these sorceries and instants that I'm mentioning. The card itself, they're typically older cards, meant for standard or modern,
Yeah.
and it'll say just reveal a card, then put that card, and but the errata for all of these refer to these as card with the same name. So the interesting thing about this distinction is that if I'm able, I can work around what exactly that means. So the goal of this deck is when in reference to Spike Hit, is to get one of my creatures onto my opponent's battlefield and then target it with one of these spells. There are, I believe, 6 spells that I'm using um, in Zamon and Dinah's colors that when I target my friendly creature that I've given someone else, what will happen is that that creature will be exiled, and then the spell will reference the same name, right? Because of the errata. It will
Hmm.
see every name of every non-legendary creature. And each of these cards say search for that name amongst the battlefield, your hand, your library, and your graveyard. Exile every single same card. So, to sum it up super simply, I am sending a double agent to someone else's side of the battlefield that has a list of names of all non-legendary creatures. I'm exiling them in order to exile every non-legendary creature in your in your entire deck. They're just gone. You will not have non-legendary creatures for this game.
You're just poisoning the
That is the
army.
jank.
You're
Mm-hmm.
poisoning the army, killing them all
And
before they get to the battlefield.
pretty much,
That's
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's it's unheard of, at least in my circles,
Hmm.
of like exiling specific targets out of someone's library before they come out in mass. Like you can do it specifically where it's like,
Hmm.
oh, this card says name an artifact and then search that opponent's library, remove it or whatever.
Yeah.
But to do it for possibly 20 to 30 cards, uh that's kind of nuts.
That is insane. And we were gonna do a play test of this beforehand, and the deck that I had, I think, is like 80% creatures. So I'm kind of glad that we didn't, but I
That
still plan like if we still get time, because obviously we had a little bit of a
Mhm.
time constraint today with your technical issues. So
I would love to hear a retrospect if we end up doing that
Oh,
about how your
absolutely.
deck got cooked. Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna
because
say
that's a
the
rough matchup, my guy.
yeah, I'm gonna say the deck that I had planned. I mean, it's kind of it. I haven't played it yet. I haven't tried it, and I just kind of threw in every creature that would work well with it. But anyway,
Hmm, hmm.
so it has little to no removal. Um, but anyway,
Yes,
uh,
yes.
yeah, I would expect absolutely nothing less from you than with this kind of thing, and I guess I just want to ask, like, how does this work with like your normal play style, I guess, or like the decks that you typically like to make? Would you say this fits in pretty well with that kind of stuff, or like how does it compare to everything else that you normally build?
I would say it does. Of a lot of the decks I make seem a bit mundane, where it's like, oh, that's a good commander. I wonder what he's gonna do with it. And then I go a little bit slower than normal, and then I pull something off that is sorta unavoidable, but sorta not. Like, it's just insane, where it's like, you wouldn't have expected me to do that,
Mhm,
so you wouldn't have done counter spells when it would have been optimal. So it's a sort of one-trick pony deck, which is a lot of my decks, to be honest, of once
mhm.
I pull this really mean trick on you, you're probably gonna be holding on to your counter spells from now on. Uh, so it fits in with the collection. Yeah.
Yeah, uh, honestly, with you wording it like that, it kind of reminds me of like a well written mystery movie, or like just a well written mystery
Yeah.
in general. Like, yeah, you go through it once and it catches you off guard, and you're like, "Oh, cow, that was amazing," and then you go through it the second time, and you're like, "Oh no, the hints were here, the clues were here the whole time. I could have figured this out if I had been paying attention." Um,
I love that. Yeah.
yeah, and if you're smart and you're catching on, like, you could figure it out beforehand, but it's not obvious. It's never obvious, whatever it is that you're up to.
Mhm, mhm. Oh,
Man.
definitely. And it gets a little bit more nefarious. I will say in the context of a mystery movie, there are actually two mysteries in this
Oh.
deck because nothing I make is that simple. So, I don't know how to explain this part exactly, but it's a mean trick.
Okay.
It's there's a second theme, I guess. I don't know how to call it, but a second play style in this deck that I had mentioned the Avatar set earlier of
Mhm.
Earthbending. So there are land creatures in this deck.
Mhm.
Um,
I see you've got
with the
Avatar Kyoshi,
context,
Earthbender in here. And honestly, when you
yes.
sent me this deck list last night and I kind of had a chance to glance through it, I thought that it was maybe a landfall deck. And I mean, like I said, I was just glancing through it. I'm like, oh, I see Avatar Kyoshi. I see
Mhm.
Archelos Lagoon Mystic, which I've wanted to build for a while. And I see um Kamal Fist of
Mhm.
Kroza. I'm like, okay, so I see land creatures, so maybe there's some landfall in here or something. But at the same time, I'm like, nah, he wouldn't go for anything so basic. So,
Yeah.
so yeah,
No,
Uh,
you're right.
yeah. Tell me about that
I
a bit.
mean,
Well, tell me about the land creatures.
about how lands play into this. Yeah. So Avatar was kind of a blessing for this deck, which is partially what tore me apart of the different iterations or versions of this deck that I had beforehand. And I'm like,
Hmm.
no, Earthbending is too good. I need to make it for this deck because there's an obvious combo with Simone and Dinah where I can, in the first main phase of my turn, I can Earthbend and then go into combat, have that land attack, and then if it gets blocked and it's not looking good combat wise, if the land's
Hmm.
just gonna die, I can just sacrifice it with Zamon and Dinah. It will come back to the battlefield anyway. I get to draw the cards, place another land, and just it goes on and on. It doesn't end. Um, so there's a very obvious combo with Earthbending in particular, but I have other animate lands, as you had pointed out, Kamal,
Hmm.
Fist of Krosa. I pay 1 green. Target land becomes a 1/1 creature until end of turn. It's still a land.
Hmm.
it doesn't it doesn't change its name. You can see
Are
where
you,
it's going.
hold on.
So,
Hold on.
so, yeah, I'll hold the phone.
No, no, I still want you to describe this, but like, I see where this is going. But this is your deck, so you
Mm,
describe this for our listeners here.
absolutely. So, for those that haven't cracked the case yet, I'll just spoil it. So, the idea of the animate lands, or I can give one of my earthbent lands over to someone else, which kind of sucks because I will not get it back, unfortunately. Anyways, is to have an animate land or animated land on someone else's battlefield, and then I will target it with one of these name spells that because they target a creature typically. So because it's a land creature and it doesn't specify non-land creature, what will happen is that if this is a basic land, let's say an island, you will have to go through your entire deck and remove every single island and put it into exile. You will lose your basic lands because those are also, you could have as many of these in your deck as you want. And I want those gone. That's what this deck is designed to do.
Interesting. Okay, I do have one question though with the technicality of it. Um, so the stuff that's actually removing the creatures. So assuming you have Spy Kit on top of it, maybe I'm just not understanding it right. But like,
hmm
would it target the lands if only one of the lands is actually a creature?
Yes. Yeah. Because what happens is, I actually have the exact rule that
Okay,
applies here,
please share because
which is the interesting thing.
this is very much so complicated, and I'm glad that you had asked the question before we
hmm
started this of
hmm
how far into the weeds do we want to go here. But I feel like that's a question that people would ask hearing this if they didn't know about the mechanic. So
Oh, yeah,
yeah, I think
definitely.
this is
And
worth
I had
explaining.
it definitely is. I had written down the relevant rules like in my notes when I was making the deck because I'm like, people
Okay.
aren't gonna get it. They're gonna
Yeah.
ask these exact questions. I need to reference the exact rules and some of like the errata notes on some of these cards.
Yes,
Um,
please.
so and what was funny is there are multiple rules, so I was gonna do the lessons like 1 through 5 from Steel Ball Run, because again, JoJo's nerd.
Yeah,
Anyway,
absolutely.
so lesson 1 is referring to rule 602 point, uh, sorry, 608.2H. There are so many rules. That's ridiculous. It says if an effect requires information from the game, such as the number of creatures on the battlefield, the answer is determined only once when the effect is applied. If the effect requires information from a specific object, including the source of the ability itself, the effect uses the current information of that object if it's in the public zone it was expected to be in. If it's no longer in that zone, or if the effect has moved it from a public zone to a hidden zone, the effect uses the object's last known information. So the reason this is relevant
Hmm.
is because when I target the land creature, the information of the name, or in we can also say when a spy kit is on a creature, names, that information is recorded as soon as my spell hits the stack and targets that creature. Like that information is recorded, it does not change. So even if you um, do some like janky things to mess with that, the information my card is using doesn't change,
Okay.
um, as it uses last known information. So when it targets a creature on the battlefield, the errata on the exact spells I'll be using, um, it says it records the name of your target, and then it will attack other cards that have that name.
Okay.
It never specifies target other creatures with that name. It automatically assumes that the other cards you'll be targeting are also creatures because why wouldn't it be? It had the same names. And
Okay.
these are older cards, so they were printed before Spy Kit was ever conceived. So that
Hmm.
is an interesting overlap of if I target, let's say in the unlikely scenario, I slapped a Spy Kit onto a forest and then used a card to donate it to an opponent. I target it with one of these spells. what will happen is that all of your islands in my previous example will be exiled from battlefield, library, graveyard, and hand, and then all your non-legendary creatures will also go in just one big atom bomb nuke, just gone.
Okay.
Hmm.
Mhm. Dang. Okay. So this deck really is just delete your entire opponent one area at a time.
Yeah, seems crazy that
You get
it's bracket two.
yeah.
And that's by my own admission, because the thing is
Mhm.
in a table of multiple people, you can only play this trick once, so before they know what's up,
Mhm.
and then you're kneecapping one guy, and then the other two are looking at you crazy, and you're the archenemy.
Mhm.
And this deck is not gonna survive sustained combats against three other players. It just can't.
Yeah, that makes sense. But hey, like this is something I feel like you could really use to like take out the problem player at the very least, right? Like you're gonna see
Oh,
somebody
definitely.
pop off. I my mind goes back to a game that I played fairly recently where one guy brought out his mean deck, and that was the first time I had someone play Blightsteel Colossus against me, and that was just the first of the problems he got on online in that one turn. So like uh this deck would have taken that one apart. I can see that right now. I
Which
wish
would be
that you had been in
funny.
that game. Oh, it would have been amazing. Um,
Oh, so good. Yeah. And I think I will just mention just two last things of like one is just another rule I would like to bring up, as I'm sure the
yeah.
listener might have this exact question of this is my lesson two, names have meaning, um, which would be rule 201.2a. Two or more objects that have the same name, or sorry, two or more objects have the same name if they have at least one name in common, even if one or more of those objects have additional names. So even though Spy Kit like gives them the names of every non-legendary creature, it's still considered the same name
Hmm.
as, any other non-legendary creature, of like they are related. So these spells do in fact work as intended. And then the other note that I would like to add is that if you would ever like to see a single card do exactly what I'm talking about for free, like you do not need setup, it is just a one card, it does this combo in one card. That card is Deadly Cover Up, which is a generic 2 black card. It's a sorcery. It says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may collect evidence 6, which I believe the evidence mechanic is just exile cards from your graveyard equal or greater than that mana value. So you'd have to, get rid of 6 mana value from your graveyard in order to,
Okay.
get that. And it is a board wipe. It says, destroy all creatures. If evidence was collected, exile a card from an opponent's graveyard. Then search its owner's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with that name and exile them. That player shuffles, then draws a card for each card exiled from their hand this way. This is the only card in Magic that has this type of effect that doesn't specify non-land. So
Ooh.
if you animated one of their creatures with Kamal, so let's just say an island, the island would go to their graveyard. You can exile that island and get the exact same effect. Every island from graveyard, hand, and library exiled, gone, donezo.
Dang. Okay. Wow. That that's crazy. I assume that's in the deck
It is
because you
indeed.
got fire.
Yep,
Like you got to be okay. So, I'm gonna take a quick break right now, and then I think we'll come back right back, and you'll have a couple more questions for you, and that might be it. So.
of course.
Well, how about we get back into it right now? So we'll say, yeah, now we're starting. And so now you can tell me, say what you just said. Um, well, because I don't know what I will remember. So this deck kind of flies a little bit above my head with the specifics of it. I'm not the smartest person. I just have a lot of fun.
Yeah, no problem. So I will say I am fully aware that there is a distinction about the rule I had talked about earlier of 608.2H. I had to reread it, even I'm not like, a genius IQ, remember absolutely
Mm-hmm.
everything. So the information is recorded when the effect is resolving. So the spell needs to like be in that state in order for the all these names to be collected by it. It's not instantly like my spell knows as soon as it hits the stack of it does need to be going through.
Mm-hmm.
So if an opponent were to interact with this deck and kind of pick it apart a little bit, one thing you can do is just artifact removal of when I donate the creature and then target the creature, you can just target Spy Kit and get rid of it. Spy Kit has no protection. You can just get rid of it. You will not lose all your non-legendary creatures. It's not Doomsday. You will just lose whatever creature I sent your way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I have an armory automaton, which allows like when it enters, it just attaches target equipment to it. So if I donated that to you and you happen to have an armory automaton in your deck, well, yay! I got rid of one card from your library or your hand or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty ineffective. So the deck is interactable, which is why like
Yeah.
people who heard me say this is bracket 2 probably don't believe me when I'm talking about a powerful effect like this.
Yeah.
But I believe it truly is. I've tried a couple different tools to, see what bracket it is, and some sites say it's bracket 4, other sites say it's bracket 2. Like, I truly don't know, but it's my belief that at a table where there is a lot of interaction, this is a bracket 2 of you might succeed, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
play politics a little bit if everyone knows your trick in order to get it to ever go through, and you want to target like
Mm-hmm.
whoever's in the lead. But if you're playing like a lower player game, like 2 to 3, or um sorry, or if or what did I say? Now I'm losing myself at the sauce a little bit. Basically, if there's a lot of interaction with 4 players, it's bracket 2. If there's a
Yeah.
lesser number and less interaction, and you're able to pull these tricks just very effectively and efficiently,
Mm-hmm.
then it's gonna be bracket 4, 100%.
Well, I mean that's kind of how a lot of combo decks can feel, you know? Like if you leave it alone,
Definitely.
it's going to be bad. But it's a matter of knowing what pieces to interact with. What are the key cards that the deck relies on? And in this case, if you know that it's that Spy Kit's coming out, then yeah, it's going to be easier to take apart. You know,
For sure.
um there's not too many cards that will stop you from interacting with a deck, not in these colors anyway, unless you're holding up a bunch of mana for counter spells. Especially not at bracket 2.
Right. Yeah. And I will say because of this deck's tendency to target basic lands as well as non-legendary creatures, basic lands being important, there is a notable card when it comes to determining bracket level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Winter Moon. It is a generic 2 cost artifact that says players can't untap more than one non-basic
Oh.
land during their untap steps. So the goal is sort of stacksy with that inclusion of like stop people from playing like multiple colored lands to get around your main effect of limiting their basic lands.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be very effective against multicolored decks. And
Yeah.
even if you're not able to keep Winter Moon out, you want to target specific mana sources from other people, which is
Mm-hmm.
why there are a lot of colorless utility lands in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
or maybe not utility lands. I use that term loosely, but there are a lot of demolition field type effects where it's like this land will produce colorless mana, and then you tap it and pay a cost to sacrifice it and destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. So you're definitely trying to limit your opponent to basic lands while
Hmm.
also destroying their non-basic options.
That makes a lot of sense. And this is, I mean, looking at it, looking at the deck, this is something that isn't just gonna do this to necessarily slow down the opponent. I'm guessing that you probably have stuff to like mechanically finish up the game in here as well, versus just stopping everybody. Because I think one of the most annoying things that people think of when it comes to any sort of like mass land destruction of any kind, or just land destruction
Mhm.
of any kind, is, well, now I can't play the game, and you're just gonna ping me to death, and it's gonna take forever, and I can't do anything. I just have to sit here. Especially if you remove every
Yeah.
land from every basic land from their deck, and then start slowly taking out their non-basic stuff. So, um, what I guess if you go into that game plan, what do you do from there?
It's an interesting thing of the deck itself. You can get really cheesy with Zimone and Dinah and
Hmm.
you do infinite combos and all this. I believe there's only one infinite combo in this deck, and it's not like an immediate game ender. It's just like an untap, do it again and again, and draw as many cards as you want and all that. And that's like a 4, 5 card combo. So
Okay.
like this is a combo deck in the sense of accomplish this goal to kneecap your opponent and guarantee that this will go to the turn it wants to end on, which is, according to the bracket, like it'll be, I think bracket 2 is actually like turn 8 and above. So you want to
Probably.
get to like turn 8. So Zimone and Dinah, the goal here is to just accrue value of cards as resources, life gain, because you're constantly draining them for 2 life, which is the
Yeah.
pinging you were referring to. But there are heavy hitters in this deck, like
Hmm.
legitimately. Kamal is one of them. We talked about him earlier. Like
Yeah.
pay 2 generic and then 3 green creatures you control get 3/3 and gain trample until end of turn.
Hmm.
That's pretty good when you've got earth bending going on. You're sending
Yeah.
like land creatures that you can't exile or kill off. They'll
Hmm.
just come back anyway. And so I have a constant supply of attackers, is the idea of
Hmm.
including earthbending. Not only attackers, but sacrifice fodder. So
Yeah.
I am actively engaging in combat, is the thing. Not
Plus,
just like accruing value and not doing anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, at least with Kamal, that ability, yeah, it's a expensive mana ability to give everything plus three and trample. But if you have the mana, which presumably you do with the commander that lets you play multiple lands plus the earthbending, you have the mana. You can use that ability multiple times in a turn. So, if you have 10 mana on board, you can do that twice and give everything plus six, which that can be gross, especially you know, if you have a decent amount of creatures.
Yeah, it gives me something to pump all this value into to
Mhm.
attempt to finish off the game, which is
Yeah.
exactly what the deck needs, I think. And
Mhm.
and there's, I would say, one other card that I would consider a win condition. Though there are cheeky other things that can possibly end a game depending on what my opponent is doing, because of just
Yeah.
the nature of exchanging control of creatures and things.
I was gonna say, I see
Like I
Shifting
can,
Grift over here. I have definitely used that card
yeah,
to steal commanders before.
absolutely. So if you're playing like a Voltron deck, with like your commander, you want to win with commander damage, I can just take your commander, and like that is a way that I can attempt to close out the game. Which
Mhm.
I have several cards that can exchange, so that is a viable option. But I also have villainous wealth. Like you have to have villainous wealth if you're doing black, green, blue. Like if you're
Mhm.
doing these colors, it is almost an auto include for me because it's just too good. Of I've gotten rid of your basic lands, right, which is like a solid chunkier library and
Yeah.
non-legendary creatures. So, sorry, alarm there.
No, no
So
worries.
what'll happen with Villainous Wealth typically is that I'm taking a lot of legendary creatures and sorceries and instants, almost optimized because of the lack or the lesser number of lands present. So there's just more of a chance that I cash out on Villainous Wealth in a big way. Um, which the effect for Villainous Wealth, just for anyone who doesn't know, target opponent exiles the top X cards of their library. You may cast any number of spells with mana value X or less from among them without paying their mana costs. It is a sorcery with X cost generic, black, green, blue. So
Hmm.
I am just stealing other people's win cons at that point. A very good thing to pump the wealth into.
Yeah, no kidding. That you know, these colors are really good at stealing other people's cards. And
They really are.
I myself am kind of like working on a deck um in these colors. I forget what the commander's name is. He's from Dragonstorm, but this kind of exactly what he does is steal cards. It's like Codis Fangbearer or something like that.
Oh, yep. I'm
Yeah.
familiar. Hmm.
So, um yeah, anyway, so I think we've got time for maybe two more questions that I've got here. Um we've already talked about how people interact with this deck and how it kind of finishes out the game, which from everything you said, you can win the game. It's not just, oh, I'm going to delete an opponent's entire library and then someone else is going to kill me because I just deleted an entire opponent's library. You have the ability to win. But is there anything in this deck that, as of right now, you would change? Or is this its final form?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I think it's possible edits are made to this deck just because I couldn't have ever predicted Earthbending becoming a mechanic, you know?
Hmm.
And that is such a boon for this deck that I have to imagine that in the future, Wizards of the Coast will look towards land creatures and bolster that identity a bit more. And
Yeah.
that's always going to be powerful in a deck like this that
Hmm.
wants to interact with lands in particular. Um,
Well, of course, I mean, we need to
I
finally, we need to figure out a way to break landfall. So, I mean,
oh, absolutely, and not, and that's acting like landfall isn't already broken.
oh yeah, exactly. That
To
no,
be
that
honest,
was totally sarcasm there. Like it, we
yeah,
need to
yeah.
buff landfall for sure.
And
Uh,
it's already kind of present in this deck. I only have one card
hmm.
with landfall. I mean, there are some with landfall like effects. Like I've got Earthbender Ascension, which
Hmm.
actually it does have landfall on it. Never mind. But there's one notable card which is just Bloodghast. I might have mentioned it before, but like that's infinite sacrifice fodder for Zemon and
Oh,
Dinah because what happens is
oh
I would
yeah.
sacrifice Bloodghast and then I would put a land onto the battlefield if I have a land, and then Bloodghast's landfall effect is whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. So
Okay,
it just repeats it just bounces right back.
that's nice. Well,
Yeah,
okay.
it's a nice little like just auto include for this kind of deck or this commander.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's cheap. It's if you have if you have two swamps on the battlefield, that's a good way to just get them out there, even like turn two. Which I'm
Hmm.
assuming you're just trying to get the colors first, maybe, but at least that's what I always do when I have a multicolored commander. I'm like, I want to play one land that can tap for. I want to play lands that tap for all the colors in my commander's identity. Um,
Oh, sure.
but
Yeah.
I guess how does that really factor? Does I guess that wouldn't really matter so much for you since your commander isn't necessarily the key to this deck. It's just a really good hinge.
It's really useful to have all my colors, but to be honest, it can function without green. Green is the least common color for affecting my opponents negatively in this deck.
Okay.
It's more the blue and black. Green
Mm-hmm.
interacting with Spy Kit is more of the cheating out my own creatures
Mm-hmm.
or doing something a little weird.
That makes
But
sense.
typically it's just to like bolster myself rather than affect my opponent.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Green is the probably the one that finishes out the games. If you were to
Hmm.
win with the bigger creatures and everything like that. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
all right, cool.
It's there
So
for the power and
yeah.
bolstering combat because I'll
Mm-hmm.
be engaging with it a lot.
Mm-hmm. That
Mhm.
makes sense. So, how much overall does this deck cost? Well, let's talk about price. If someone wanted to build this deck, or because I kind of want to include, if it's all right with you, I'd love to include a link to the deck list in the
Yeah,
description of
absolutely.
this, so people can look there. How much would this deck cost if they were to build it themselves?
There are a lot of estimates here that I can
Mm-hmm.
give as far as cost, because I'm using Moxfield to host the deck list, and that'll have its own numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've been able to gather, the cost of the specific deck list that I've put together here, or this version, is about $200
Okay.
market price. Like it's just under, and
Mm-hmm.
that's assuming you don't have any basic lands and some of these cards already,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just total value.
Mm-hmm.
But sort of low end price of this deck is $100. Now, if you cut out the expensive cards, like for example, there are some equipments in this deck. Um, the I don't remember what its um, out of the Universes Beyond version is, but I have a equipment here called Lucille, which is from like the Walking Dead secret
Mm.
lair, right? And like on Moxfield, it's listed as $18. Now, this card is not important. Like almost all the expensive cards are not important. The only one that is maybe Homeward Path, and that's 16 bucks is what it says on Moxfield. But Lucille, the whole point of it is that I just wanted equipments that would help with combat. Of like, I want to be swinging at people, so um, I wanted equipments that would make token creatures, or
Okay.
have like some just minor like power effect to like help the deck along.
Okay.
And so you don't have to include these things, and if you remove these expensive editions, which I have, like there are only like six I removed from the app on my
Mm-hmm.
phone. So the 94 like I wouldn't even say essential cards, but like the core, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
the upgrades. Excluding the upgrades, it's just $100.
Okay.
Like flat out, like
Wow.
median market price. This is $100 deck, and it has the power of like a precon with changes of like a lot of
Okay.
niche cards that are only expensive because of rarity for the most part, of like it was only printed in one set and there's only
Mm-hmm.
so many out there or whatever, and so because of that it's $3. So like even at $100 I would say this is a fairly cheap deck, especially if you
Mm-hmm.
already have a ton of the cards.
Okay. That makes sense. Um, that is actually surprising to me that it is that cheap. Um,
I know,
as
right?
far as things go, like I mean, I'm putting together some of the decks that I have and like throwing it into Architect and finding out some of the cards are a lot more expensive than I thought they were. Um, but so Spy Kit's kind of the since Spy Kit is the key. How much is that card? Because that's the one that you're
It's
gonna want to pay the full
interesting.
value for.
Yeah, like it's hard to say because like I it's a little erratic of like different sites are saying different things, so it's really
Mm-hmm.
hard for me to say. Of like on one hand it says the card is worth 35 cents, but it was printed in like 2016. I don't remember what set, but it seems to be like fairly rare. So on buying singles on some of these sites, it is up to like $5 to $7 here and
Okay.
there.
Okay.
So out of rarity, it's expensive, not the card itself or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm. Oh dang. I'm looking at TCG Player right now. Spy Kit, Conspiracy Take the Crown. Lightly played,
Mm.
15 cents. Um,
Yee.
at,
Okay.
at most, which I mean, I think I have it set to sort by, um, like the lowest price or something like that, or maybe that's. It looks like it's pretty cheap. Even $7 isn't all that expensive as far as a
Yeah, I
lot
would
of
say the
like popular
lowest
cards go.
end cost. Oh yeah, sorry to interrupt. But I was gonna
Yeah.
say I
No,
think the
you're good.
lowest end cost, like assuming those prices of like you buy singles and you're able to like find lightly played cards and it's available.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the app I have says like this is a $60 deck or $59.12 for
Mm-hmm.
just all the 94 cards without the expensive editions. So like this
Yeah.
is about the cost of a precon or like and about the strength
Mm-hmm.
too at like bracket 2.
All right, I'd say that's fairly good. You know,
Good
so
for a budget.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
decent for a budget. I never expect and I never claim to make budget decks on here, but all in all, that is a lot better than it could be. So, yeah, I think that about wraps up what we have for time anyway. Alex, thank you so much for joining us for our first episode on the Casual Wizard Company podcast.
Oh, and no problem at all. It was a delight to talk about one of my insane ideas given form. Uh, and that form is 100 cards. Uh, it's a shame I was only able to talk about some of them because there are
Hmm.
some weird exclusions where I'm like, this doesn't actually have a place. I just like this card, to be honest. And I wanted it in there. Mhm.
Before we end, is there any socials or anything that you want to plug for anybody who might be interested?
Uh, Honestly, not at the moment. I will likely have more in the future and would be happy to, uh, share socials if I'm ever back on again. Um, but I'm pretty obscure, especially in terms of magic. So
Hmm.
instead, I would like to plug somebody else, if
All
that's
right,
okay.
yeah, go for it. I mean,
Um,
we have it. I made the channel today. That we don't have any art, we have no videos on it. So like, I mean, this is gonna be maybe like one other person who is gonna hear this. So, but it's a beginning. It's a beginning.
oh, sure. So the person I would like to plug is one named Michael Solani. There's this like online blog for Magic and Commander in particular called Commander's Herald. One of the authors there, his name is Michael Solani. He has a Twitter or I guess an X account at Games Freak SA. You can just look him up. He has a ton of articles, and he was definitely the one who inspired me to build decks the way that I do of finding interesting cards and mechanics and really exploring the limits of them and just finding the perfect commander as a pilot instead of a centerpiece. Um, he really has just a bunch of fascinating deck ideas and full builds too. Like he writes entire articles. They're very fun to read. I suggest everyone give them a shot. Like there's always like a theme with it of like sometimes he will write it as the perspective of like he's a professor at Strixhaven and kind of theme the entire article that way. Or he has one that's like the whole thing is written like a heist movie. That's fascinating. Of like he has like 7 legendary creatures and that's his heist crew. And then the big twist, there's actually an 8th legendary creature. Like he's just super creative. I Everyone should give him a read at some point. He has likely made a deck that you would personally love to pilot. And almost all of them are fairly budget. So once again, that is Michael Solani. That you can find his articles on the Commander's Herald.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks so much. Thank you everybody for listening to our first episode. We'll see where we go from here. Hopefully, we'll have some more for you. And Alex, hopefully, we'll have you back for a different deck, which I'm sure you've got so many other crazy jank for us at some point. All right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
You would not be wrong.
All right. Well, I really don't have an outro for this, so let's just say, I already said thank you for listening. This has been the Casual Wizards Company podcast. I feel like I need a better name for that, but that's the channel we found it. So, goodbye. Thanks for listening to the Casual Wizard Company. We're going to be back in another 2 weeks with another episode. And if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a follow, like, subscribe. We're still in the early days here, so we've got nowhere to go but up. So it should be worth it. All right, thank you guys for listening. Have a good one.